Welcome back, guys. Another episode.
Hey,
We are doing 24/7 today.
put us to work, TJ.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are we going to talk about today, guys?
We are going to talk about No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Cue the music. Cue the music.
What we're calling it for here. You need to call it. I can't call it for you. It wouldn't be fair.
I didn't put nothing up.
Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it. You know what date is on this coin?
No.
1958. It's been traveling 22 years to get here. And now it's here. And it's either heads or tails. And you have to say, call it.
Look, I need to know what I stand to win.
Everything.
How's that?
You stand to win everything, call it.
And we're back.
Woo.
That music was great, epically great.
Oh, that's a great intro that you picked.
So, this is your movie selection this week, right, Tony?
Pardon?
This is your selection this week.
Yes, it is
Okay.
my selection. Yeah.
And why did you pick this film?
I just when I saw it, I really thought it was great. Also, I guess I wanted to pick a Coen Brothers movie. I'm a big fan of the Coen Brothers. The first Coen Brothers movie I saw was Fargo, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked certain styles and themes that I'll get into.
Mhm.
And I guess I just wanted to pick one of their more popular ones and ones that you guys and the viewers probably saw.
Right.
And, it still has the Coen Brothers style to it. And I think this is a great movie for that.
And what is the movie kind of about?
No Country for Old Men. It's basically about, kind of like a Mexican drug trade gone wrong. The protagonist, he's like a hunter, and he comes across the area. He finds a bunch of money, and then the rest of the time is just a goose chase between the cartel looking for him, the psychopathic killer Anton,
Mhm.
who is the main character in this movie, basically looking for him, a bounty hunter looking for Anton, and the old man sheriff trying to figure things out. And in the style of the Coen Brothers, the way the movie goes is not your typical. It doesn't go the way the movies typically go. There's a lot of raw, unexpected violence. There's a lot of raw, unexpected events that reflect more the way real life goes, right? But not exactly.
Okay.
Because real life, it doesn't play like when a hero dies in a movie. Let's say Batman dies in a or gets hurt in a movie. There's drama, special effects, whatever.
Yeah.
When it happens in real life, someone gets shot or whatever, he dies. It's like really silent and cold, right? Coen Brothers does it the second way. However, they also add a style to it, like comedy or
Right.
ironic scenarios, so that's the way I see it. Yeah.
Perfect. So we'll get into that. Just
Yeah.
before that, we're just going to talk about 2007 and the movies that came out
Yeah.
in that year. So very, I think me and Aaron have a comment to make about one of the movies, but we'll get to that. So notable movies in 2007. You had
Eastern Promises.
Eastern Provinces, a very excellent film.
Mm.
Of course, you had 28 weeks later. You had American Gangster, 310 to Yuma, which is another Western. Actually, this year you had three prominent Westerns. You also had The Assassination of Jesse James, an excellent film as well. Actually, it has Casey Affleck in it. Sorry, just off podcast, we were just talking about Casey Affleck, and he's actually in that film. And of course, we have Aaron. What's the film in 2007?
There will be blood.
There will be.
Boo! No
So-
Country for Old Men all the way.
They went
No,
toe to
actually, I
toe.
love that. I really love that movie. I
They're
really love
both
the.
they're both like the fact that both those movies came out in the same year and then they're like both like masterpiece level movies is honestly it's lucky that we got to watch them both.
Yeah,
And I just joke around because when I watched the movie Blood, I complained how before I saw No Country for Old Men, it's like you complaining about it winning the Best Picture, but then
Me
actually
too. Me too.
it's well deserved. But I'm still biased, and that's okay.
For sure. Like just a quick comment on that really quickly. Like No Country for Old Men, it's like a very memorable movie for me because it kind of like just personally, it kind of like demonstrated how much I've like grown as a movie watcher because when I watched There Will Be Blood, I kind of was already like I kind of felt like I kind of was like a little bit like more educated as far as cinemas goes, and that's why I really liked There Will Be Blood so much. And I was like, how did this not win against this movie, No Country for Old Men? But it's because I didn't understand westerns, and I didn't understand,
but
this
you
stuff.
you have the those home run. You have a home run 1-for-1 hitter like Daniel Day-Lewis. He's 1-for-1 for every movie. Almost every movie he does, he wins an Academy
Yeah.
Award. So that kind of like they kind of had an advantage.
Yeah,
with
but the
that
film
actor.
itself is a very good film too.
Yeah.
Besides Daniel Day-Lewis, of
Yeah.
course, his performance is unreal. But I mean, like, just from a movie standpoint, like when I watched No Country for Old Men, I was like, how the hell did this movie win like against There Will Be Blood? But now that I'm older and I understand and appreciate westerns a lot more.
Remember though that oh shit, you okay?
Yeah, okay.
Remember though that sometimes actors or filmmakers win an Oscar because they're due.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this was the case. I'm not saying this was the case, but Coen brothers did a lot of movies before this one that were excellent, but they didn't win any awards. So I don't know.
But I don't feel that this was due to that. This film is actually deserving of the movie. But that's only afterwards that I've come to kind of understand that. But anyways, we can dive more deep into it. Tony, take us away.
All right. Well, it's obviously made by like I said, the Coen brothers, Joel and Ethel Coen. Notable movies before this one was Blood Simple in '84, Fargo, and The Big Lebowski, which I'm sure everyone knows. Their films are usually American based, usually South and West America. Fargo being an exception, obviously North Dakota.
Minneapolis for Arian.
Yeah.
Yeah. They usually write, direct, and produce all their films, and they're known to play with themes. Yeah, the theme in this movie, in particular, is themes of fate, conscience, and circumstance. Fate being random things that happen to you, conscience being probably like the way the killer has his own set of principles and rules, and then people have their own principles and what's right, what's wrong, and circumstance.
I just want to add something quickly. I find a lot of their films also have a lot of dark comedy elements.
Oh yeah, it's very dark morbid comedy. There's very morbid comedy in these movies.
Maybe not in
the
this.
violence comes out of nowhere. You don't know where it comes from, and it could be very grotesque at times. And so this movie in particular was based on Cormac McCarthy's 2005 novel of the same name. The main actors, Tommy Lee Jones, who plays Tom Bell. That's the sheriff,
the old man.
And then Josh Brolin, who plays Llewellyn Moss. Actually, that role was initially offered to Heath Ledger. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah. So that role was offered to Heath Ledger, but I think what happened was he just had a newborn baby, and he didn't have the time to do this film. And actually, Josh Brolin wasn't their first choice at all. And actually, Josh Brolin, he asked for help from Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez to lobby for him and make an audition reel for him. And they helped push the directors, give more attention for him. And in the end, they chose him.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Good for him.
obviously, yeah, good for him. I think he did a good job. And then obviously the psychopathic killer, Anton Chigurh.
Can we just say like one of the greatest film villains probably of all time, right?
Javier Bardem.
Yeah.
I think he did a
Javier
great
Bardem
job.
did such a good job.
I think he did a great job. And actually, I read somewhere a long time ago that psychologists were asked, can you look at movies and pick the
Most
the
accurate.
psychopath, a
Yeah.
psychopath serial, because they've interviewed real life
Right,
psychopaths. Which movie villain resembles the most of an actual psychopath? And they chose him.
Yeah, I'm not even surprised.
They chose him. They said
No.
he reflects the
Mhm.
most based on his acting and based on his behavior and his decisions. He reflects most on the.
I find that so fascinating because I think he really does a good job because like in movies a lot of the times they go to the extremes, right?
Yeah,
Like it's a
yeah.
psychopath. He's good. That's all he does is he kills and he. But here is a character. What makes him so scary is that he's able to be disciplined. He's able to be like
And he has
all point
principles.
accurate.
And he has his own set of morality.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
and he
that's
doesn't break them no matter what.
And that's what
that's
makes
how
him so scary and
that's
effective.
more reflective of like there's no like a psychopath, like a name of psychopath that's like extreme psychopath, just like murder, like no. But this guy, he has principles.
Yeah.
He's like, no, like I gave him my word,
Yeah.
even though it's psychotic because he gave him his word that he's going to kill his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But he
right.
gave him his word and he can't go against his word, right? So he has principles. Gotta love it.
Yeah, just like the coin. He has his coin flipping too, right?
Flip, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that, the whole coin flip thing. It's a bit, honestly, I know the whole coin flip and circumstance and fate and accidents happen in this movie. That's the theme of the movie. I haven't studied it that hard. I have a hard time grasping it, but I have an idea.
Just before we beginning,
Yeah.
what is that? What's that? I'm looking for that word where it's like in westerns where they have it's a common thing in a western. They're going after this one thing, you know, like the treasure or whatever. What's the name of that
Not
word?
sure, I don't
But
know.
you know what I'm talking about, right?
I'm not sure about the name. I haven't
Okay.
watched many westerns.
Okay. Anyways, we can continue.
The gold.
Bounty?
Yes.
No, there's a specific word that's to use,
Oh.
but I'll find it out.
Okay.
Interesting.
So going just going on that. The film did pretty well. Well, I don't know how well this is considered, but it was a $25 million budget and it grossed 171 million. So that's not bad. But I think its best accomplishment is winning to your guys' happiness, best picture,
Yeah.
best director, in this case directors,
Yeah.
and best adapted screenplay. So 3 Oscars, baby.
Didn't Javier Bardem win as well?
I'm
I'm pretty
not
sure he
sure.
did.
Well, I actually, when I read this, they might have only been talking about the directors. I'm not sure if he won or not. I guess we could check that out.
Let's check. Yeah, he won Best Supporting Actor 2008.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
4 Oscars.
Yeah.
Great. And just like our previous movie, Eyes Wide Shut, which some people say it was the best film of the decade, some various sources also claim this movie to be the best movie of the decade.
And what I find amazing about that is because it's a genre that was kind of like extinct in a sense. No, I wouldn't say extinct, but it's an older genre that's not as prominent now.
Yeah.
The Western.
So that's my intro to the movie. What did you guys think of the movie? Aaron?
I mean, I love it. I watched the movie actually very recently, just out of like pure. You know why actually? Is because I watched There Will Be Blood again, and then funny enough, I was like, okay, like let me watch these 2 movies side by side, and like now I'll see which one I think and is deserving. And then this last time I watched it in particular, I really really enjoyed it. So yeah, I mean, it's it's like you guys said, it's like a Western movie. It's not a particularly popular genre, but they like almost kind of like modernized it, I guess you'd say, extremely well.
Yeah,
And then
Definitely the example of a modern Western. For sure.
But
Yeah.
This is a side note. You guys know this movie was set in 1980, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot that, but yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think this movie did a lot of interesting things too, in a sense, like the fact that he uses that weapon, like the air weapon and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
The
and
yeah,
then
air
yeah.
pressurizer.
the
Yeah,
air
that's
pre the air.
definitely a Coen Brothers thing, just to twist things around,
And just
to
and it's a
change.
comedic element to it too.
Yeah,
Like
and very comedic element,
Yeah,
and morbid comedy. Yeah.
yeah, and it's funny because I very distinctly remember at the time when the movie came out, people talking about that and like talking about the realness of it, I guess. And then there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff too about how because he was using the weapon like that, and then it's quiet, obviously, right, when he uses it, or at least it's like silencers and stuff like that. Like I remember there was a lot of discussion about like if weapons like this exist and like if they could if like if they're real or not and that type of stuff. So I remember even like minor elements of the movie having like a major impact on like the like conversation in like the news and the media at the time. So it's a great movie. I loved it. Um, I'm happy you chose it this week.
I find when in the beginning of the movie, when he's in the field, not in the field, in the desert, and there's cars, and he's walking around, and in general, the whole movie, the way it was filmed, there's the pictures they chose and the angles they chose is more like a real life type of angle. You're
Yeah.
kind of a little far away.
I was gonna actually go into that because
Yeah, go ahead.
the cinematographer, it's Roger Deakins. I don't know if
Okay.
you know him, but basically very, very famous for his use of color. And actually, Denis Villeneuve has used him on films like Prisoners. And if you watch a film like Prisoners or even Blade Runner, you'll see it's very similar cinematographic style that they use.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, just in general, when he was walking around in the desert with those cars and then just looking around, or when he was far away and he looks at with his binoculars, I mean, I'm really feeling the movie vibes. I'm really feeling like I'm into this. I'm into the adventure, you know.
right.
I think I was really into the whole story, and I think a lot of it has to do with like the way that it was done. Did you find that, Aaron?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Just to add on what we were saying about like what I felt about the movie. So when I first watched this movie, I really didn't like this movie. uh, I, I never saw a Western, or I wasn't introduced to this kind of film, and I was just kind of mad. Like with like Aaron, I kind of like thought that There Will Be Blood got robbed. But it's kind of funny. I find that Western films are kind of like an acquired taste. You kind of mature, very similar to like jazz music, I find. And I find it's not a coincidence that a lot of the great filmmakers, their favorite directors and their favorite films are Western movies, because Western movies, and by the way, the word I was looking for, it's called a MacGuffin. So MacGuffin is a tool or an object that people are chasing afterwards. It happens very often in Western plots.
Okay.
So that's so the MacGuffin in this film would be the box full of money, right? That he finds, like the
Yeah.
$500,000 or $1 million,
Interesting.
whatever. So yeah, because the script is so bare bones and it's so kind of like really like very easy to follow, it allows this kind of creative expression for cinematography, for little bits of dialogue, for like little nuances, like in westerns that really come out and shine.
Yeah.
So I find that like this movie, once I understood the Western more, and because of films from Sergio Leone, like Fistful of Dollars trilogy and that kind of stuff, and I really started loving Westerns. When I went back and watched this film, I was like, this is an amazing movie. This is
Good.
an amazing movie, yeah.
Yeah. I think Western movies too. I don't know if maybe I'm off base here, but like I find Western movies and these styles of movies, as you get a little bit older, they're like an acquired taste. You know what I mean? Like it's like as you get a little bit older, you start to like have a little bit more appreciation for them. So the fact that you kind of mentioned it like that, like jazz music or something, like I would never be into that stuff, but now that I'm older, it's like I have so much more appreciation for it as I
Definitely. And
age
it's
and
kind of the
like
same era, right? Too.
yeah.
Those,
Yeah, you
those
see the themes differently as you gain a little bit more wisdom, or like maybe there's a little bit more on the line. Like the second time I watched the movie, I had so much more um in like so much more in comparison to the main character, in the sense of like, like having a wife or whatever, having like these responsibilities, or having, you know what I mean, like you have something, like if you're younger maybe you can't like um relate to the main character as much, but then as I got older, and then like there's so much more on the line, I feel like you can appreciate it a little bit more as you have a little bit more like wisdom in your life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, your tastes are more refined, and the simplicity sometimes you can appreciate a lot more than something that's like a little bit more captivating or like flashy in your face, kind of like and not to take anything away from like Inception or those films that we talked
Yeah.
about, like Christopher Nolan's kind of style, which is a little bit more like intellectual, but also flashy in a sense,
Yeah.
Westerns are
Yeah.
very dumbed down and kind of like stripped, but because of that, there's so much more exposure, like I said, to things that are more beautiful and more nuanced that you can appreciate a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gritty. The other thing that's interesting, the movie doesn't have a ton of music. I know we were talking about jazz music, but like uh I remember
I don't think there's no music at all. I think
It's
that's
possible,
I think
yeah.
there's no music at all
yeah,
in the film actually.
that's kind of
Good to bring
crazy
that up. Yeah.
if you think about it, right? Like if you consider music, I know we always like skip over that part in a lot of movies, but like music's such a massive part of movies. And then so if you want to talk like bare bones, the fact the movie's so good, and then it doesn't have like so much dialogue, and then at the same time like
Right.
But it goes,
it doesn't have a ton of music. It doesn't
yeah.
have either a ton of music or maybe even any music. I'm not sure.
But it goes back to what I was saying before, like the Coen brothers style is less about making drama. If someone dies, there's no drama, there's no music. They to make it as realistic as possible, but at the same time not being realistic. But that's one of the reasons there's no music. And I think it's not the only movie. I don't think Fargo had much music either.
Yeah. Well, two things I wanted to say really quickly about this movie is that I like kind of, I think a film like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly kind of introduced a Western where you have like three kind of main characters.
Yeah.
This movie has that,
True.
but in a different way, in a different sense, Tommy Lee Jones's character, he's always just one step behind all the time,
Yeah.
He's always just like, because he's old, right?
Yeah.
And I find
Yeah.
that's like that's so funny,
Yeah.
And it's really for that title, he's always like, he's just in the midst of catching the Chagall or whatever, he's just arrives a little bit too late. And for the script actually is kind of, there's kind of like a complication to it. Like there is a lot of depth to the film, almost to a point where it's almost mysterious, because they introduce these characters and you can see like there's a hierarchy, like especially where what's his name's character, Woody Harrelson's character, and then the boss
Right.
that Chagall comes in and kills. So they introduce all of this kind of like background story to it. So there's a little bit of more like sophisticatedness to the story, but not too much, just enough so that you
And very
can,
simple.
Like, so you can gather some
very
information.
clear and simple. He's a bounty hunter. That's it. And then he meets him and then meets his fate. And that's it.
And that's it,
Yeah.
So it's like very interesting in that regard.
It was hilarious, by the way, when the bounty hunter was meeting his boss in the office.
Yeah, and he just
It's like, I don't know.
Just gets killed.
I just think Woody Harrelson is just so funny. Like any movie he plays, any role he plays, he's just naturally funny. And I just found that super funny. Like the one part in particular, he was about to leave and he's like, I noticed on the way up, this is like the 8th floor, but I counted 7. And then the guy's like, we'll look into it.
He's definitely in the wrong place, like he's in over his head so badly, that character in this movie. Like he's like, it's like you said with the hierarchy aspect, like he doesn't know what water he's swimming in. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
But he's with the big dogs. He's with the sharks at the end. And then
the other aspect I was gonna say is that like Javier Bardem's character, he kind of has an element of he's like a force of nature, like something that's like there's a mystical element to him,
Yeah.
And I find that really cool at the end, like when he has the car crash, it shows you that like he's not invincible, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
but even in the most horrific situations where he gets hurt, he still shows no emotions.
I know.
He has
Yeah.
he's a true psychopath
Yeah.
because he has zero emotions and zero empathy and
Yeah.
zero sympathy. A lot of the murders he does in this movie, I mean, it's as if he's making a peanut butter sandwich, you know.
Right.
So-
That's a good analogy, but it's actually
I
true.
mean, it's really yeah.
It's
go
like when
ahead.
he gets injured too at the hotel, and like you said, there's very little like it's like another day in the office for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he just focuses on what needs to be done, and
Yeah.
people have to get trained for that. Let's say emergency workers. Okay, when there's an emergency, don't put your emotions. Just focus on what needs to be done. This character never needed to be taught that.
Yeah.
He never shows emotion.
And you know, Josh Brolin's character on the opposite end, he's always like, that's what's kind of holds him back in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Because he always has the responsibility, and he always has like the
Yeah.
worriness and all these feelings.
And
all
in the end, and two things that I liked about Josh Brolin was that they made him realistic in two senses. One, in the end, he chose not to sacrifice himself for his wife.
Yeah.
So he kind of was sort of bad in that way.
Yeah.
And he realistically,
Selfish.
he wanted to take him on himself.
Yes.
And he knew he was not like the thing, but he wanted to do it anyway. He chose to be selfish. And one part that I really liked about this movie is that he was on his way. He got his money. He got out of the hospital. He crossed the border. He was on his way. He was on his way to the hotel. You know, we would get the feeling that things were going to be happening. Maybe there's going to be a shootout.
Mhm.
And they cut to the sheriff, and just casually he walks into the hotel, and there he is, dead on the floor. We didn't get to see anything.
Anything. Yeah.
We just saw him dead on the floor, and we don't know what happened. And that's like how real life is.
Right.
The heroes, they don't get their dramatic ending, dramatic cinema ending. They just, like real life, you just found them dead. And I really like that part. That's very Coen Brothers style.
Right. So to add, I think that one of the most iconic scenes of the movie is when he goes into the gas store, or the gas station. Sorry.
Yeah.
And you know, he makes that epic speech of this coin was made in 18, I don't know,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
traveled 75 years to do this coin flip.
Yeah, to
And
get
the
to
guy
this
is asking
place.
like, why am I flipping this coin?
He also mentioned that in the ending when he met Lewin's wife.
Right. Yeah.
He asked her to call it, and she said, "It's not the coin, it's you." And then he said something very deep, West, which I still don't really understand. He said, "I got here the same way the coin did." And yeah, gotta go to Reddit.
I should
But
have
I think,
I should have read it in this movie too.
but I think what he's trying to say is that I came here by circumstance, just like the coin.
Exactly. That's what I
You
think
know,
he's trying to say.
circumstance and chance and fate led me
and
here,
make
just like the coin
Yeah.
did.
Make these scenarios happening. I think that's exactly what he's trying to say.
I love the line where the guy says like, "What am I flipping for?" And he says, "Everything."
And what's amazing about that scene is you get so much information from that scene. You get the guy's whole backstory about how he got the gas station, how
Yeah.
and it almost like passes you by. You don't even realize, like, it's like when you just sit down to think about what just happened, you're like, oh my God, like I got the whole story about how he came to be here, you know, and like, is he meant to be there? Is like, it's, you know, that's the irony of the whole thing, is that like he made a decision that led him to here. And is he really meant to be here? And I think that's what Chagel's kind of like. He's almost like he's challenging him. You know,
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah, because he got the store given to him too by his wife's family, I
he
guess,
didn't
right?
exactly.
And then
And he looks down upon him for
exactly.
that. You know,
That's what I was gonna say. He doesn't like that. He
No.
like doesn't
he
think
wants to kill him. I
He
mean, like,
does
to
want
be
to kill
honest,
him.
he does want to, but he's so disciplined and he respects his rules, like you said.
Yeah,
you
his
know?
own rules. His
That's
principles, yeah.
fascinating. You know.
Yeah, it's funny. There's so much tension in that scene, and then when he flips right, it's funny because you literally at that moment feel all the tension disappear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we finish, I want to mention something. And I think this happened to a lot of people, is that when they see this story, they don't really pay attention to the sheriff's story.
Yeah.
because the
Very
sheriff
true.
has his own side story, but there's so much going on with the other two that even myself, I saw this in the theaters actually when it came out, and I might have seen it once or twice after, but I don't really remember like the last scene where
With his wife?
he's telling his wife,
Yeah.
or before that when he's talking to his father or his uncle or
Yeah, he
whatever.
has the dream, right?
And then at the end he's talking to his wife about the dream, and there's a whole story with the sheriff and about getting old. Maybe it's because we're younger, we don't actually synchronize as much with that. But there's a story there too, and the movie's about that too. And like I said, I'm one of the guilty ones that didn't really pay attention really to that story, and I had to play the last dialogue twice. But basically, in his dream, he meets his dad, and his dad is going somewhere, and then you're coming with me, and I think that symbolizes his death or
Right.
his
Yeah.
eventual death. But yeah, something about that as well. The sheriff.
Yeah,
I mean, the
I don't
title of
know.
the yeah,
I don't know
the
if you
title.
know, but the novella or the book, I forget. It's based on a book.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It but the apparently there's a massive part in I don't remember if it's a book or a novella, but a major part of it is actually the backstory of the sheriff, like the original
Yeah,
source material, and then they didn't get a chance to talk about that
yeah. I
in
think that what
the
happened was
movie.
they might have skipped a lot of that for this
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think that probably plays a role in some of the like feelings that you're having related to
yeah. Because I mean, the movie's called No Country for Old Men. He's an old man. Um, and the title doesn't really reflect what most people view the movie as. It might have just been called Heist Gone Wrong or
mafia psychopath.
Kill the Psycho before he kills you.
Yeah.
But I think, like a lot of other movies, like cult classic movies, Anton Chigurh or Javier Bardem's character, he kind of like is what people watch the movie for.
True.
And he kind of steals the show, much like a Joker, like the Heath Ledger Joker in The Dark Knight, much like a character like that.
Yeah.
But the film, even besides him, is just an amazing
Yeah.
movie in general. And yeah, I mean, 2000, was it seven?
2007.
Yeah, like those two movies. Yeah, not much more to say. Two fantastic films.
I mean, very different films.
Yeah.
You're talking about There Will Be Blood,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Very good films, but very different films. Actually,
Some,
There Will
something
Be
else
Blood was
interesting that I saw was that the two films were shot, I think, around the same time, and both of them even were shot in this like similar location. So even though the movies are both, I'm pretty sure, about Texas, apparently they were shooting in the same spots in New Mexico, and they had to like kind of work with each
take
other, or they
turns.
had to, yeah, take turns actually. Which so it's funny how obviously the movies are very different, but it's funny how we naturally draw a comparison to both of those movies, and then they end up actually having like some interesting similarities between the two of them.
Exactly. Well, Tony, I'm really happy that you brought this movie because it's, like I said, it's a movie that really, in my, let's say, like, life.
When I think of
Like,
picking
really,
movies, I just think of movies that I saw, and the way I picked Memento and the way I picked this one, I just try to remember movies that I saw that I liked, and then it's always like okay, and then Memento. Oh wow, This one's really good. I have to play this one.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with No Country for Old Men. I was thinking, and then I saw this one, and I had a click, and that click translate to a good podcast.
Any closing comments for you, Aaron?
No, I'm just super like always like when you pick winners, like especially like movies like Best Pictures and stuff like that, it's nice to get the opportunity to watch these movies again because they're kind of, well, no, they are in a lot of ways in their own rights like masterpieces or whatever. So it's nice to get the opportunity to watch a movie like this again, and then to discuss it with people and like kind of share our opinions on it. It's a luxury that I'm very fortunate that we got the chance to do.
Yeah, I'm happy it turned out well.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. Next week it's going to be Aaron's choice of movie, and then the week after we're gonna have a special episode, I believe, because that will be
No,
episode.
then the week after is yours,
Oh, it's week after it's mine. Oh, nice.
and then it's the last
And
one.
then it's the last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we'll have a special episode. So
Yeah.
to kind of wrap up the first season. So as always, thank you for tuning in, and peace out.
Peace out, guys.
See you guys. Cue the music.
Cue the music.